Tantor Audio presents A.D. After Disclosure by Richard M. Dolan and Bryce Zabel. Narrated by Kevin Foley. Foreword by Jim Mars. How do you, meaning you listening to these words, deal with the idea of unidentified flying objects? Do you simply ignore the issue like the majority of your fellow citizens? Do you disdain any serious discussion of the topic because it may cause discomfort to your cherished beliefs and worldview? Or, like a small minority, do you consider with an open mind the possibility that life may exist outside of our conventional three-dimensional material reality? Or perhaps you wait impatiently for a meeting with our space brothers, as does an even smaller minority. Regardless of your viewpoint, we, all humans on Earth, are in for a real awakening, and probably sooner rather than later. For some, this awakening to the reality of visitation by others, the designation used by the authors of this book, will be a confirmation of long-held beliefs. For many more, it will be a shattering of their worldview, leaving them in psychological shock and confusion, and most probably more than a little angry with the experts who have lied and dissembled for so long. After all, haven't our authority figures, military officers, prominent scientists, mass media pundits, for many years told us that UFOs simply do not exist? Haven't the people who said such things are real been denigrated as publicity seekers and nuts wearing aluminum hats? Haven't all UFO sightings been explained as mere illusions, secret government test craft, or misinterpreted natural phenomena? And haven't we all been schooled and conditioned to respect and trust our authorities? In the case of UFOs, such trust and respect has been misplaced. Since the 1940s or earlier, the Freedom of Information Act lawsuits have produced a mountain of documentary evidence that instituted a program of denial and ridicule within the highest levels of our military and government regarding UFOs. The message was, you didn't see anything, and if you persist in saying you did, then you probably need mental health care. And it worked admirably. Until most recently, the prospect of derision and ridicule, coupled with a patriotic impulse to assist the government in hiding secrets, resulted in thousands of citizens keeping mum about their personal experiences with UFOs. This resulted in a distorted view of our world and events, and created a dysfunctional and hypocritical society. After all, no matter how smart you are, if you are operating from incomplete or erroneous information, you will never have a correct understanding of any issue. Those who dismiss the idea of non-human intelligent life and UFOs will never begin to truly comprehend the full picture of our world, as they have discarded a large piece of the puzzle. But such denial and secrecy has begun to crack in recent years with the advent of the personal camcorder and the camera-bearing cell phone. Prior to this technology, only occasionally did a person obtain a photograph of a UFO, and even then it was just a blurry spot of light in the dark sky, hardly satisfying proof to anyone. But today, not a day goes by that someone, somewhere in the world, does not get a reasonably clear picture of something unusual in the air. Naturally, this does not impinge on those whose worldview is either locked into denial or supporting some hidden agenda. Although a good many photos are creations of Photoshop, a hubcap soaring over the backyard or a shot of Venus on a clear night, enough are unexplainable to convince any thoughtful person that something is happening in the skies above. The reality of UFO visitation becomes even more obvious when these photos and government documents are placed into context with physical evidence such as radar contacts, the innumerable personal accounts of sightings, and physical abduction. So, to the open-minded, the controversy is settled. UFOs exist. Although it remains unclear whether they represent travelers from another solar or star system, another dimension, or another timeline, they most certainly represent yet another part of our reality. And the sooner the human race comes to deal with this fact, the better. The question now becomes, who occupies UFOs, and why are they here? And even more importantly, what are we going to do about this new reality? It is this question that is addressed in this book, and one that deserves serious consideration, because sooner or later we will all have to answer this for ourselves. Jim Mars, Fort Worth, Texas. Preface by Stephen Bassett. Disclosure, the formal acknowledgment by the world's governments of an extraterrestrial presence engaging the human race, is inevitable. So was this book. To my knowledge, it is the first work to specifically and comprehensively address the concept of Big D disclosure from an exopolitical perspective, which is to say, it attempts to bring the concept into focus for the mass of people who may have no inkling of what is headed their way. If The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is a how-to book about what to do when the world ends, this is a how-to book on what to do when a new world begins. To this purpose, Richard Dolan and Bryce Zabel are well suited. Richard is a grounded historian whose developing trilogy, UFOs and the National Security State, is building a chronological backbone to the history of the UFO ET issue from 1947 onward. Bryce has written and produced for television, and thus understands how to communicate to the larger audience beyond the realms of research and academia. Given that most parents generally have 9 months to prepare for the birth of a new human being, it is somewhat unnerving that human beings will be lucky if they have 90 seconds to prepare for the birth of a new reality. This is because the United States government has no intention of providing a user manual or early warning concerning disclosure, the most profound event in human history. One evening you are eating Chinese takeout in front of the television. 5 minutes later, you are in a new paradigm. The world has changed in a billion ways, and you haven't even finished the Kung Pao chicken. The truth embargo, what some call the UFO cover-up, is in its 7th decade. According to Richard and Bryce, it will end soon. Pay close attention. You need to know that. All of the old paradigm assertions, you don't have a need to know, you can't handle the truth, and don't ask, don't tell, will get tossed out the window. A little preparation will help ensure you don't jump out the window with them. Many thousands of books will be written on the subject of disclosure before the sun cools, expands, and swallows up the solar system. You'll want to read them all, but AD after disclosure is a very good beginning. But permit me to suggest that there is one group of people who desperately need to read this book ASAP. They are the elected members of Congress, the commanding officers in the military, the managers of the intelligence agencies, and most assuredly, the President of the United States. You see, there is an implicit irony in this book that may escape your notice. One of the key assumptions of AD after disclosure is that governments will be forced to reveal the truth regarding an extraterrestrial presence by a dramatic event that forces their hand. This is strategically unwise. The sight of members of Congress being chased down the halls of their office buildings by packs of screaming reporters with cameras and pens clicking away will not inspire confidence in that august body, which recently hit an all-time low. Should they bother to read this book, it is quite possible they might see the wisdom of actually doing their job and effectuating a proactive, orderly disclosure event that gets the job done without unnecessary self-destructive melodrama. If this happens, the government would feel good about itself, the people would be more assured, and even the extraterrestrials might take comfort in the rare display of maturity on the part of human institutions. So do yourself and your nation a favor and send a copy to your elected representatives. I'm sure they'll thank you for it in a nicely worded form letter. Stephen Bassett, Washington, D.C. Introduction. Thousands of books, all debating whether UFOs are real or just figments of our imaginations, have been published. This book is not one of them. More than 6 decades into this quiet revolution, we can now see the outlines of a reality that has been sneaking up on us, one step at a time. The issue that was hushed up by one generation, then turned into an object of derision by another, now demands to be heard straight in ours. Since the first major wave of UFO sightings in 1947, the number of people who believe that UFOs are of extraterrestrial origin has steadily risen. Today, a majority of Americans, as well as other global citizens, believe this is so, and at least 5% claim to have seen a UFO. The evidence that something strange has been happening is voluminous and convincing. All you have to do is look for it. Through the years, determined researchers have forced the release of classified reports prepared by the U.S. government and other nations. These accounts tell a story of contact through the eyes of thousands of professional witnesses, such as law enforcement, military pilots, and even astronauts. Most people now reject the theory that all sightings can be explained away as weather balloons, swamp gas flares, ball lightning, or mass hallucination. Instead, they have settled on one conclusion. Some UFOs appear to be intelligently controlled physical craft of some kind from some place that is not here. Accepting that as our starting point makes our book different. AD After Disclosure is the first project to focus on what might happen after an announcement that UFOs are real. Even if you are skeptical about UFOs, or, if you believe in them, doubt that the secrecy will end anytime soon, this book should still engage you. Consider it a fascinating what if. What if UFO secrecy were to end? How would that change our world? No secret can last forever. Our society is changing so fast, so completely, that we will be unrecognizable a mere century from now. In such a world, with intelligent computers, advanced quantum computing, and nearly unforeseeable developments in global communication, can we really believe that a secret such as the presence of an alien intelligence on Earth can continue to remain hidden and undisclosed? At what point between now and then do we cross the threshold of knowing the truth about UFOs and having an open acknowledgment of them in our world? It might be as soon as next week, or as long as several more generations, but it won't be forever. It will happen. The wall of official denial that has been in place for more than half a century is now crumbling. And yet, an acknowledgment that UFOs are real and some of them are not us will not end the debate. It will only lead to more questions and mark a new phase of the mystery. Will disclosure lead to social panic, undermine religion, destroy the stock market, or will it lead to revolutionary new technologies, extended lifespans, and world peace? If alien civilizations have sent their own explorers across the universe to visit us, who are they? What do they want? And why would some of our people keep the news of their arrival from the rest of us? What will unmasking a truth of this magnitude do to our reality, our way of life, our culture, our society? Could it be that these beings are not visitors from another part of our universe, but full-time residents of our world already? Are even stranger physics involved, such as dimensions or time travel? Any such revelation will be a game-changer of monumental proportions. Unlike 9/11, when we said everything changed, in this case it really will. Full disclosure could usher in an age of human unity or one of greater global conflict. It could lead to paradise or hell. Those are the questions that have kept us up at nights. Because we wanted answers, we have written this book. Both of us feel that our previous research has led us inexorably to this project. We may now be believers in UFO reality, but we did not start out that way. We followed the facts where they led. Richard Dolan has a graduate degree in history from the University of Rochester, where he studied U.S. Cold War strategy, Soviet history, and international diplomacy. He was writing a book about U.S. national security policy during the early Cold War when he became fixated on the issue of UFOs. His research evolved into UFOs and the National Security State, a multi-volume historical study of the attitudes and policies toward UFOs by the military and intelligence community, and the fascinating development of citizen movements to end UFO secrecy. Bryce Zabel grew up near McMinnville, Oregon, just a few miles from the spot where two of the most famous UFO photographs in history were taken. Even so, as a TV network correspondent and investigative reporter, he started as a skeptic. Yet he found his mind opening when his research for several high-profile film and TV projects suggested to him that UFOs were not science fiction, but science fact. He created the NBC TV series Dark Skies, wrote the Sci-Fi Channel's first original film, Official Denial, and worked with Steven Spielberg on Taken. Throughout both our careers, we have each sifted through the evidence, listened to the believers and deniers, and frankly done the homework that investigative journalists and university scholars should have done, but which few have tried. And while the work has been rewarding, it has never been easy, and has often been troubling. A detached review of the proven evidence, much of which is freely available in once classified documents released through the Freedom of Information Act, tells us that militaries from around the world have been plagued by UFOs. There is no other way to characterize these events. Time after time, sensitive and restricted airspace has been the scene of violations by objects tracked on radar and seen visually by base personnel. Attempts to intercept have often been made, typically ending in failure. The documents describe these unknown objects as performing maneuvers that would have destroyed our best fighter aircraft. UFOs could hover indefinitely and then accelerate instantaneously. Witnesses often described them as roundish or disc-shaped, giving rise to the term flying saucer. To read one or two such reports, we might well be inclined to dismiss them as mistakes, unknown natural phenomena, equipment malfunctions, or some other error in perception. But hundreds of such reports have come down to us. Their tone is serious. Higher-level military and intelligence personnel discussed them and were left perplexed and sometimes distressed. The general scenario is clear. Advanced technology has been traversing the Earth. Regardless of who it belongs to, it is technology that is not supposed to exist, and yet it does. Moreover, those individuals in strategic positions of power were able to create and maintain a system of secrecy designed to keep the rest of the world in the dark. Was it right to keep this secret from the people since the 1940s? To laugh at people who saw what they saw? To make them feel small and ridiculous for speaking out? To transform the most important information of our time into fodder for stand-up comedy? No, it was not. Perhaps after the truth is known, there will be efforts to bring some of these secret keepers to justice. More likely, however, many people will shrug their shoulders and reflect that they might have done the same thing had they been confronted with the problem of UFOs. They will also find, as we have in the course of our research, that the problem of UFOs has seldom been clear and never simple. And yet, whatever the reasons for keeping us in the dark, we deserve to hear the full story now. We deserve to make our own plans. The truth may be wonderful or it may be disturbing, but whatever it is, people have the capacity, and more importantly the right, to learn it and act upon it. In any case, we as a society will learn it. The structure of secrecy, when it falls apart in the months or years ahead, could disappear with astonishing speed. One day it will be there, and the next it will not. Those who have held this secret for so long need to understand that the river of time cannot stop, and that truth cannot indefinitely be denied. The day is coming when they will be forced to come clean, and it is best for them, as well as for humanity, that they do this sooner rather than later. We will need all the wisdom, foresight, and time possible to make a smooth transition to the new reality, after disclosure, or AD. To the group of beings we have come to call the others, whoever and whatever they are, we want to remind them that, whatever their attitude about the human race, our scientific trajectory may soon enable us to leap into their world. It may well be that, at some point in the future, they will be forced to answer to us for past transgressions, or we may be thanking them for past services rendered. Either way, the human race is poised to advance to the next level of civilization. If there is a final thought to the journey of AD after disclosure, it is a couple words of advice. No fear. That means, do not be afraid to express your views regarding the reality of other intelligences interacting with humanity, for the truth is that more people believe this than you realize. Do not fear the secret keepers, for they are people too, who have generally done what they have out of the belief that it was best. Also, do not fear their power, as they are not infallible, and time is against them. You have your own resources to marshal the truth. Do not fear the others either, no matter what that truth may be. Whether they are angels, demons, good, bad, or indifferent to our fate, do not fear them. You lived well enough up until now, and you will survive well enough after the great change. Above all, believe in humankind, in our ability to face unexpected challenges, in the strength and wisdom that reside within us, waiting for the moment to manifest. Although the nature of this book is speculative, we have worked hard to keep such speculations informed and supported by solid research. You will notice, however, that some of the sources we refer to are listed as confidential, rather than by name. Although we wish this were not so, there are many people who have been touched by this cover-up who do not feel comfortable speaking openly, either because of past oaths of secrecy, fear of personal jeopardy, or ridicule. We want our listeners to know that, through our professional training in the fields of history and investigative journalism, we have applied standards of credibility to such comments. Only those individuals who cross a threshold of reliability have been included. Hopefully, the day is not so far away when all people can speak openly on this subject. Because we are seeking, in a sense, to paint a picture of how we believe the future will look, we have added a series of vignettes and have placed them between the chapters of this book. These fictional depictions are meant to convey some of the ideas we are expressing, and we hope that they help the listener form a concrete idea as to how disclosure might affect our world. Better still would be to help the listener form his or her own ideas more clearly. A final observation about this unique study. After assessing the probable transformations that will affect our society and ourselves following disclosure, we have gained a deeper appreciation for why UFO secrecy has been maintained for so long. In that sense, even if disclosure were never to happen, or at least never to happen as we think it will, we feel this book is of value by demonstrating the multifaceted, revolutionary nature of the UFO phenomenon. You may not agree with all of our examples, scenarios, or conclusions, but we welcome the debate. We are, however, confident that the truth will come out. We are not alone. And the others are not light years away, some kind of cosmic pen pals chatting by radio telescope. They are here, now. The day will come when humanity reviews its history and divides it between everything before the truth was spoken out loud and everything AD, or after disclosure. Soon enough, we will all be living in the brave new world of life after contact. Richard M. Dolan, Rochester, New York. Bryce Zabel, Los Angeles, California. Chapter 1. Day 1. The day everything changes. However long the night, the dawn will break. African proverb. White House correspondents are in an uproar. A few hours earlier, the press secretary told them that the president would appear in the late afternoon to make a major announcement on a topic of global importance. This brought howls of protest concerning the lateness of it all, a bit of unfortunate timing that guaranteed missed deadlines and high-stress live shots. Even while jammed into their windowless, cramped cubicles and Spartan offices in the basement of the West Wing, these elite journalists from around the world had known for days that something was going on upstairs. They had reported about the late-night comings and goings around other power centers of Washington, D.C., but no reporter broke a story about what it meant. Instead, they tried to draw out the truth from each other without revealing any of their own suspicions. Now, in the James S. Brady press briefing room, the anxiety is palpable. Each of the lucky occupants of the 49 assigned seats claimed their space early to avoid poaching. Meanwhile, the rest of the room is packed, with nearly as many reporters standing on the sidelines. This is not the first time they have been told of an inconvenient forthcoming announcement, but no one can remember one coming this late on a Friday. The reporter for the Associated Press, now seated front row center, scribbles potential first questions. He stops, however, when the correspondent for National Public Radio, seated in the row immediately behind, wonders half-jokingly to no one in particular if it matters that the stock market just closed. The news reaches them that the president is on the way. The informal betting pool, run by the photographers, is closed to new wagers. The short odds now tilt toward military action against a terrorist training camp, followed by a radical new trade deal with China. The acknowledgment of a classified U.S. defense technology remains a long shot that could pay off nicely. And while no one has placed a bet on it, a few wonder if this has something to do with that inexplicable event from last week. Clearly there has to be a rational explanation for it, but what if... The president enters. With him are key members of the U.S. Congress, the Secretary of Defense, the Director of Central Intelligence, and the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. This assembly of power seems to favor the military angle. Then someone notices that the Secretary of Commerce is also inexplicably standing with the group. The Commander-in-Chief of the United States of America checks his watch and steps up to the familiar podium. After consultation with key members of our defense and intelligence community, the President begins, including the officials accompanying me here at this podium, it has been made clear to me that there is persuasive evidence that the Earth has been, and is currently being, interacted with by one or more intelligent non-human species. He pauses and surveys the room, allowing time for his statement to settle into the minds of those listening. Within a single minute, the world has changed. The President preaches calm, although deep inside he is a bit panicked too. He has only last week learned the details of this reality himself. He explains that recent highly visible sightings of UFOs, including a mass sighting that had been well documented, caused him to demand a full investigation into what the United States government knew on the subject. Despite the issues that disclosure of this fact now obviously raises, I do believe that the people of the United States and the people of Earth have a right to know, the President continues. Because of the need for calm debate, I have taken the precautionary move of making the National Guard available to any state governor who feels that its use is necessary to maintain public safety. Additionally, to protect our nation's economic security, through my executive authority, I am closing the nation's banks for a period of 1 week and ordering the closure of the stock market until further notice. From here, the press conference becomes decidedly more challenging. Under questioning, the President promises an ongoing, transparent review of all classified files dealing with the UFO phenomenon and the ET presence. This will be supervised by members of Senate and House Intelligence Committees. He even announces the formation of an Office of Contact Affairs. Meanwhile, foreign leaders worldwide have begun to make similar announcements, part of a coordinated effort at disclosure that rolls across the time zones of the Earth. Even the Pope will speak to thousands from his balcony at the Vatican Sunday at noon. The President does not take all the heat alone. This is why he has brought the Secretary of Commerce and the Secretary of Defense to answer some of the pointed questions in the news conference that will follow. That news conference will be the most eventful one that the world has ever seen, creating more headlines, spinning off more live shots, and generating more demand for follow-up than anything we have ever seen before, or ever will. This disclosure scenario only serves purposes of illustration. It is possible that the lifting of the veil will not originate in the United States, or even involve its elected leader. It could even come courtesy of insiders within the secrecy group itself, who force the issue into the open and take the world by surprise. There are many roads that can be taken on the journey to truth. Whatever specific actions precede the announcement, however, the first 24 hours will be like none that have ever existed before. The world has never experienced a planetary event of this magnitude. Not even the existential shock of the Kennedy.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?